host of the Gridiron.
All right, now, assessing the Giants' salary cap health in 2025. Now, the Giants do have, there are a couple, they do have some good things going for them with their salary cap health 2025. Okay, so there are some teams that, obviously there's, their health is not quite as good, but the Giants are like obviously number one as far as salary cap health or anything like that. But they do have, a couple things going for them. That is for sure. All right. Assessing the Giants' 2025 salary cap health. Giants salary cap situation isn't bad at the moment, but General Manager Joe Schoen will still probably have to make some moves at some point. All right, the Giants cap situation isn't as good as it's ever been to start a new league year, but the team is projected to have $43.38 million of total space based on a projected $272.5 million league cap year. Okay. And $32.062 million in effective cap space for those contracts that will fall under the top 51, which begins on the first day of the new league year. On the surface, that cap space seems like plenty to fill many roster holes. But with quarterback and cornerback being among the team's most pressing needs, that money is expected to evaporate rather quickly. Fortunately for the Giants, they can create more space as needed. The first option is to trim the fat off the cap through the salary cap cuts. Like in recent years, though, the Giants don't have as many contracts that they can potentially unload that will yield significant savings. Cuts. The one that stands out the most is held by defensive lineman Nacho, right? Raheem Nunez Roches, or Nacho, who has a $5.033 million cap figure this year. Nacho is in the final year of his 3-year contract and isn't owed any guaranteed money in 2025. Now, just to be fair, nice guy, great attitude, love his attitude, good, all that stuff and everything. But if you can cut him and say about $5 million, $5 million, I'm doing that in a heartbeat. He's just not living up to. When he came in, he was supposed to be able to stop the run. That's what he's supposed to be talking about. A guy, Nacho, he doesn't get many quarterback hits or pressure, but I'll tell you what, that dude shows up and that man's a run stuffer. I'm not seeing much of it. Not that he's unbelievably horrible, but I'm sure you can let him go, save that money, right? And bring in somebody else a little bit cheaper, or draft somebody, right? Draft somebody who's cheaper. Like I said, if we got Carter, and then maybe you draft somebody else, right? Let's see. Yeah, he's also likely to compete against a very deep and talented defensive line class where a rookie contract will be far more affordable for a team. The Giants move on from Nacho. He's 32 years old, though, right? They would say $3.6 million and eat $1.433 in dead cap money. So they'd save a little over $3.5 million. Now this one too. This is a guy. They got McAtamney on there. They can also draft a kicker. There's also 300 trillion kickers floating around the stratosphere that they can bring in at any time, right? But unfortunately, kicker Graham Gano, right? His name's been floated as a potential cap casualty. Trimming him from the roster would say $3.165 million, with a $2.5 million dead cap hit if he is a pre-June 1 transaction. Right? Gano has been mentioned as a potential cap cut because, like Nacho, he doesn't have any more guaranteed money owed to him in his contract. There has also been some concern about Graham Gano's durability after 2 straight years with injuries. Right? But I would be very surprised if the Giants moved on from Cano this year. I wouldn't be, but we'll see. They talk about this too, right? Extensions. Extend some guys. Take their cap hits this year, drop it down, extend them over some periods of time, like Mr. Illuminor, right? Man who wants to be here, unlike that running back that went to Philadelphia, right? But Mr. Illuminor wants to be a Giant. One player who could be in line for a contract extension is guard/tackle Mr. Jermaine Illuminor, who is in the final year of his 2-year deal he signed last season. Illuminor currently holds a $9.191 million cap against the cap, of which $5.75 million is in his 2025 base salary. The question is whether the 31-year-old Illuminor would be open to an extension. As we learned during last year's Hard Knocks, the Giants wanted to sign the veteran offensive lineman to a 3-year contract, but he didn't want to commit that long and instead got a 2-year deal. So I'll have to wait and see. If we were open to an extension, the Giants could lower his base salary to $1.255 million, which is the minimum base for a veteran with at least 7 years accrued experience. Illuminor is entering his 9th NFL season. Tack on 2 more years, with the second one being a voidable year. Then the Giants could get quite a bit of money if they restructure some contracts. This is where the Giants can free up a lot more money if needed, like well over another 40, 45 million. Right? The Giants' top 5 highest cap hits belong to Brian Burns, Sexy Dexy, Andrew Thomas, Bobby Okereke, and John Runyon Jr., all of whom have contracts that could be targeted for either a simple restructure or a maximum restructure, depending on the specific circumstances. A simple restructure involves converting part of the player's base salary into a signing bonus and spreading it out over the remaining life of the contract. Teams can make these moves with little to no involvement from the players, just so long as the player receives the equivalent or greater of what he is owed in his base salary for that year. A maximum restructure is when the base salary is reduced to the bare minimum with the years of accrued experience the player has, and the remaining money is converted into a signing bonus that is spread over the life of the contract and usually includes at least one voidable year to help minimize the impact of the conversion. Since this alters the contract's length, this entails an agreement on the player's part. But let's see. On the other hand, the Patriots and the Giants have no contracts with any void years. The Bears and the Steelers have no cap dollars in void years, and their only contracts that have been void years were acquired by trade. We got, let's see. As for other teams with the fewest cap dollars currently in void years, let's see, there's a bunch. I mean, the Chiefs don't have many dollars in void years. The Eagles are number 1. That's the only reason why they made it. That's the one to me. That's one of the biggest reasons why they went to the Super Bowl and had such a good team, because they can't afford to pay their players, so they have to put void years on the end of like 6, 7, 8 of their guys' contracts because they can't afford them. So that's why they have hundreds of millions of dollars in void year contracts. That's one of the biggest reasons why they went to this. To me, one of the biggest reasons why they went to the Super Bowl. Let's see. So what would the Giants be looking at in each scenario? According to Over the Cap, the team would gain up to $51.83 million with a simple restructure. This would boost their projected cap space to $83.895 million, presumably if they targeted the contracts with the biggest cap hits this year. If they pursued maximum restructure, the Giants could gain up to $80 million in cap space, with a potential estimated cap space of $112 million. The obvious drawback with restructures is that a team pushes potential dead money into future years, which can get them into cap trouble if they don't use that tactic judiciously and accurately forecast the cap's potential year-over-year growth. So then what? As of right now, Schoen doesn't have to do anything with the cap unless, in addition to signing a veteran quarterback, which is not going to come cheap, he has another major move or two in mind. The other factor to consider is if Schoen intends to extend any contracts coming up for renewal, much like how he extended Andrew Thomas and Dexter Lawrence before they reached the end of their contracts. Right now, Schoen has little to consider extending, which is alarming for a team that seems to have a revolving door of players coming in and leaving after only one contract, which is true. It's already noted Luminor is one such candidate for an extension, though the Giants' intention to add a young offensive tackle in the draft could change any such plans, which is true. Inside linebacker Micah McFadden might be another potential extension candidate. McFadden is in the final year of his rookie contract, and if the Giants ultimately plan to move on from Bobby Okereke, whose contract ends in 2026, perhaps having a starting duo of McFadden and Darius Muasau, the latter of whom would still be on his rookie contract, would be the way to go. Giants could also consider extending outside linebacker Kayvon Thibodeau. If the team picks up his fifth-year option, which is likely to happen, he would be due a whopping $16.6 million base salary in 2026. In this case, the Giants might be better off waiting to see what kind of start Thibodeau gets to the 2025 season before presenting him with a new contract. Well, let's just say. Giants have the resources to fix many problems with their roster if they make the right moves. But this won't be easy because the more challenges a team has, the more it must prioritize what gets addressed first, and we all know how that works. The one or two areas that don't get prioritized usually ends up biting the team in the rear end the hardest. That which is true. That is absolutely true. So I mean, the Giants, they have options. They have options. I mean, they could go out. I'm just throwing this out there. They could. They wanted to trade and bring Matthew Stafford in. They could do that. They could obviously sign their draft class. They have moves that they could make. Right? They could sign a draft class, bring in Matthew Stafford, have an additional. If they made some moves and have some additional money for the rest of the season, they can bring in a few more free agents if they want. So there are things that they could do without question. But one first things first. But you don't know what Joe Schoen is prioritizing, and we will have to wait and see. But the Giants have some options, and one of the nice things is they're talking about is the Giants have like no contracts with void years on. Right? Meaning like when a guy is gone from the team, right? The guy's still on the books. He has like void years, as I said, which is what the Eagles do. The Eagles have like $300 or $400 million in void year contracts, like all pushed down the future. So, worked out for the Eagles because hey, if you win a Super Bowl, right, it works out well. But if you push all this money down the future. Right, and to get in all these good players that you can't afford to pay, right, and you don't win a Super Bowl, well, it comes back to bite you in the rear end. But for this year, it worked out well for the Eagles.